poppin' SBT fans? Talking about our playoff overview. This is Mams talking, and we got Tyler as well,
What's up, guys?
and Beatergate as well.
I don't know what playoffs are this season, but I'm here anyway.
And this is going to be a pretty extensive video, so hopefully you guys can chew this up. We're going to be looking at each division, starting from the rivals and working our way all the way up to Conquerors. Only 7 coaches from each division makes it into playoffs, where we'll have 3 matches round 1, reseeding for round 2 to make semis, and then obviously the finals for the last match. And we'll talk about some exceptions going into Guardians and Challengers later. But for now, one of you want to look at Rivals Bracket and list off the coaches that made it. By the way, congratulations for making it into playoffs, guys. Each and every one of you did a stellar job throughout the season.
If I'm looking at the rivals matchups right now, we got Leaf and Exostomp, we got HZK and Sun, and we got Daniel and Lazy Louie.
With Sai taking the first seed, round 1 bye.
Yep.
Sai finally able to get a good season in the SBT.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Nice to see some success.
I think we finally found his niche in the division that he needs to be in, because making number 1 seed in a division is really impressive. So obviously he auto promotes to challengers next season, so congratulations. If he goes on to become the division champion, you'll obviously get double promoted. I'm sure you guys already have figured it out since we announced it earlier on, but again, if you win the division, you get double promoted in certain divisions.
If you haven't, there is a document, a picture of the document in announcements. So go ahead and check that. And if you haven't joined the Discord, join it.
I'll link it in the description. Yeah, so we got some interesting matchups here. Obviously, Sai taking the first round bye, but looking at Leaf versus Exostomp, Leaf had a pretty incredible season, actually. He went 8-2, and I think his team was very offensively built. He had Urshifu, Mega Arrow. He had a lot of offense and a couple of MVPs that made the charts. So, looking at his playstyle, it was very, very offensive, and I think he did well throughout the season, just pressuring his opponent with that. But has Leaf fought Exostomp throughout the season? I'm curious about that, because if this is a rematch or just a brand new match in general.
Not sure. I don't think they have.
I don't know. I'm leaning towards no, but I can't answer definitively. Just a quick look at their teams, though. It does look like we're dealing with 2 coaches who make full use of their entire team rather than just kind of centralizing down to one man. For example, looking at Leaf's team, you have all Mons except for Zygarde 10 having registered at least a kill or a death, meaning that he's making use of his entire 10-mon team, versus, Peter will let me, Exostomp, you're looking at all of his Mons have at least a kill, except for the Meganium, because it's Meganium. So you have kind of Exostomp who makes full use of all of his Mons in some sort of offensive capacity. So this isn't a case where it's very clear what one coach has to stop. It's more of you have 2 coaches that want to make full use of their teams. So there are going to be a lot of different ways this match can play out.
I mean, just looking at by the way, these 2 haven't faced each other yet, so it's going to be a fresh new match going into playoffs round 1. But both of these teams, very, very nice, I think. I'm not sure where they placed in power rankings post-draft, but I really like...
I think they were both like...
I really like the synergy between Exostomp's offense and his defense. I think it's more defensively, built around, and then Leaf, of course, like he has some major offensive players, right? It should be an interesting match.
I will say Exostomp does have a pretty substantial Urshifu single problem, so that'll be interesting to see how Leaf takes advantage of that.
But we'll let them take care of the matchup when it comes to it, Again, we're just talking about what we think, but like we do in every other playoff overview, we kind of talk about our predictions for who might come out on top. So what are your guys' thoughts? Who do you think might win this one out?
I'm gonna have to go with Leaf on this one. He's been getting results this season, so.
I might have to agree, actually.
I think,
very consistent with his wins.
I know I just brought up that point, but I picked Exostomp to win the division when we first recorded, so I'm going to stick by my guns and say Exostomp comes out on top.
You never know, it could be an upset. Alright, well, moving on to the next...
Mostly because I want to be right.
Yeah. Moving on to the next match, we have HCK versus Sun Sun. I don't think we've spoken on it, but Sun Sun is, of course, a newer coach joining the division after a drop earlier, I think in week 6. So he's only been in the season for about 4 weeks, I believe. But
HCK was a drop replacement as well, though, right?
I think he started the division as a coach, as a regular coach. I believe so.
Well, who knows?
So again, I was just saying, Sun, he went undefeated for the last 4 weeks, so that's a very impressive start, obviously coming into the division and just showing off your skills. Very impressive, of course, seeing what he can do with just the mons that was picked up from his drop team. And it's a pretty decent team that he picked up as well. Of course, I don't think he's really brought the Mega Abomasnow as much as he would have liked, but his team doesn't really have Trick Room options in the first place. So it's a nice team again.
He needs to bring in. He's got a bunch of other substantial options that can come any week. So
yeah, exactly. And then you have HCK, which I believe has also been very consistent with his wins. He actually beat out a couple of the top seeds, I believe, and his team in itself is also pretty scary. You have a lot of nice cores that he built around, and I think he really likes his hazards. I think, because I just see a cool fish right there, and I'm already like, you can spike up, you can T-spikes, but
I want to give a shout out to HCK because I see that spread of stats on the Steelix. This is a man who knows how to use a Steelix as well, and I respect it.
11-8 on a Steelix. That's very admirable. Yeah. You have to bring it every single week for that to happen.
I don't know how that even is possible. But...
he already has a steel type in Aegislash, so it's not like you always need to bring a secondary steel type, but sometimes Steelix just has to.
I'm guessing that's a man who saw a couple matchups where Dragon Dance Steelix actually puts in work, because they do exist.
I would love to see Dragon Dance Steelix sweep. Of course, I just think Curse or something else is just better.
Usually is, but there are times.
Anyways,
there's never time for a Dragon Dance Steelix.
Yeah. Well, it has to be sheer force, I think, too.
There's always a better set.
There almost always is a better set, but the fun part of clicking Dragon Dance...
In my 2 years of Draft League, I have yet to see a good matchup for a Dragon Dance Steelix, and I will never see one.
Anyways, the matchup looks pretty even, I would say. Of course, Sun being a newer opponent into the division, maybe he's not as scouted, but HCK is a very good coach, so maybe just looking at the 4 matches that he played throughout the season, he could get an idea of how Sun plays his matches. But 2 very good coaches. I think it could be a close one if this happens. If it happens to be. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on who might come out on top here?
I'm gonna go bold and say Sun takes this one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take the upset as well. Give me Sun.
I think HCK is a really good coach, but I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. Sun, he just came in, he went undefeated, and it's not like he's planning on dropping any more games. So I'm gonna agree with you guys. Sun might have to take it. Yeah. So with that, I guess we got one more match. We got Daniel versus Lazy Louie. Both these coaches sitting pretty high up on the standings, but Daniel, Team Daniel,
it's gamer time.
He went pretty much like top seed throughout the entire season, I believe. Rivaling Leaf for that top seed. It was only in the last couple weeks that he just he dropped a couple games, but it was nothing too crazy. He was already pretty much locked in for playoffs, so I think he could afford that.
Makes sense.
What do you guys think of Lazy Louis and his progress throughout the season? You know, I watched some of his games, and they seem to work out in his favor a lot of the time. And then others, you know, not so much. He has some bad matchups with his team, so I have a feeling, you know, his team, although is very, very incredible. Like, he has some really heavy hitters and some nice pivots. I love Greninja and Infernic together, by the way. I think maybe he just wasn't finding his proper niche with it, but obviously he made playoffs, so you know, maybe this time around he can work his way around Daniel. I actually don't know if they faced again. Oh, they faced week 1 actually, and Daniel got the 5-0 on there. So you know, they faced week 1, and they have to face round 1 of playoffs this time around.
And it does look like, at least on Lazy Louis, well, actually, yeah, both teams, it looks like, made at least some sort of free agent changes over the course of the season, so it's not like they're facing the same teams again.
Yeah.
Similar mons, but there are some differences.
And Daniel got the 5-0 last time, so I'm pretty sure, you know, this time, you know, Lazy Louis might know how to scout for what Daniel's strategy is going into the matches. But you know, with Lazy Louis changing up a couple of his mons, he might think that he has a better matchup this time around. It's a shame that Chandelure didn't get to make #1 MVPs throughout Rivals, but he did a good job. That was
his job.
That was Chandelure's sweep, I believe, week 1, where he took a fire move. He got the flash fire and then proceeded to not miss a fire blast and then win.
I mean, it's a Chandelure. We don't miss those.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be an interesting match as well. And of course, whoever gets the bottom seed gets to face off against Sai going into semifinals. But if you just win the one match, guys, you just get promoted. So that's all you really have to do. Good luck to Rivals. With that, you guys want to move up to challengers? We can talk about those guys.
Do we want to predict this last match, or
oh yeah, you're
do
right.
we want to keep
that.
pushing?
Okay. Yeah. Who do you guys think? Daniel versus Lazy Louis. What are we thinking here?
Gamer time.
Team Daniel. Are we on Team Daniel's side?
I'm not going 3 upsets, so I'll take Daniel as well.
I'm gonna have to agree. Team Daniel all the way. He's done a great job this far, and I think he's improved a lot since the last season. Where last season, I believe he almost went neutral. I think this season he was pretty much a force to be reckoned with throughout the entire season. So gonna have to go with Daniel here. Okay, so that wraps up Rivals. Let's jump up into Challengers, and we can talk about.
Sounds good.
Talk about what we think about these guys here. Now these guys, some of them are new, some of them we've seen in SBT before, but let's just go over them really quickly. We have Burger in the first seed. He's a newer coach that joined, and you know, he just went 9-1 and pretty much decimated the entire season. I couldn't even tell you if like his draft was just overpowering, but I'm gonna take a look at it now and see why it's just been doing so well for him. And you guys can see his team obviously on the screen as we talk about it, but for us, we're just gonna be looking at it in real time.
Looks like it's a solid draft, but it's not anything that makes me immediately say, "Ooh, 9-1 team."
Yeah.
So he definitely made the most of the bonds that he had, and probably those FA moves helped him to some degree.
He used all of his FAs, yeah.
But yeah, it looks like he definitely took a team and made the most of it.
I think so. I think if you look at his entire roster, like everything is basically over 10 points, you know, barring the last 2 mons. And if you watched his last match, he really knew how to use that Pangoro in the last stages of the match against his last week opponent. I forget who it was. I think it was against Salabko, and he Burger brought a subtoxic Pangoro, which, I mean, it's a set for sure, but you know, you never really. I always think of like banded Pangoro whenever I think of it, but he made use of it, and it was really nice to see. So I think he really knows how to use his pieces well, and I think a lot of his mons just synergize well together, which is why it's done well for him. He went 9-1, barely dropped a game. I think his only loss was against who was it? I think it was against John. I could be wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
His only loss was to John.
Sounds right.
Yeah. But yeah, making first seed, he gets that week off. So, hopefully he plans and preps well for the next coming weeks. But let's look over the first match of quarterfinals. We got Simpleton versus Bagel John. In the second match we got Ryan versus Ghost, and the third one we got Electric versus Ollie. So looking over Simpleton versus John, the first one. Simpleton again, he could have easily have made first seed if not for that one extra loss that he had. But he went rampant throughout the season as well. And
he actually has higher diff than Burger, but his loss to Burger was what cost him.
Yeah, that's basically it. And he had first round pick as well. I think it was that Mew that he picked up. I could be wrong, but I think that was it.
And then he got Mega Mawile at the end of round 2 for some reason.
Yeah, which is pretty insane. But those two in itself just very overpowering. The rest of his team kind of just allows him to maybe pivot around and obviously chip the team down for Mawile and Mew to come in later. Rillaboom obviously sitting there as well to clean up late game if it can. And we're looking at another Steelix team. Not as
Steelix only has one kill,
but
you know what? It's probably doing its traditional job better.
I feel like
also, Jesus Christ, that Pyukumuku sprite is in our face.
It's pretty big. I feel like I haven't really ever seen Primarina not get like a couple of kills throughout the season, but it could have been him just picking it up later in the season. I have no idea.
Yeah, and it's on this team. It's not like it has to be thrust into that offensive role.
I think it needs to be defensive.
Fantastic. Yeah, we already have fantastic special breakers in Needle King, and if Mew and Room Heat need to do that job, they can. Mm-hmm. So it's certainly a mon that can show up any given week and put in a solid offensive performance, but here it's not like it's thrust into that position.
Yeah. I mean, it can be Calm Mind sometimes. I think it can be more defensive. When it's your only water type, well, he has a Pyukumuku as well, I guess, but it kind of needs to be there to take some hits sometimes.
Definitely.
Again,
meanwhile, on John, go for it.
What is it? We're looking at John's team, yeah. Yeah, on John's team, very scary team. Very scary team. He has some heavy hitters. Cleaners, and then he has some bulk on the side, and he has a Porygon, which he got a kill, so it's whatever.
Yeah, shout out to it. But yeah, I think this is kind of a similar sense to what Simpleton's team is. Just Simpleton's team has a little bit more flexibility. This team tells you what it's going to do, and the question is, can you stop it from doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it'll be an interesting matchup because this isn't going to be a whole lot of sleight of hand. Well, there'll be some sleight of hand because there's a Mew, which you always have to kind of figure out what Mew wants to do. Yeah. The same thing for Hydreigon. But very clear kind of how both coaches are going to try and battle. It's going to be a lot of offensive pressure and just whose bulk is able to do a little bit more with it.
I was going to say, on John's end, because of just the nature of his team, if he wants to bring it bulky, he can. But a lot of the time, it feels like he needs to put on that offensive pressure just to make sure that Simpleton can't just sit there and set up with that Mew, because that once that Mew gets going, it's a little bit hard to break. Luckily, there's a Hydreigon on the other side, but it doesn't outspeed. And, Mawile, you never want to give Mawile any kind of momentum either.
Yeah.
I think that's enough talk about, these two. What do you guys think about our predictions? Who do you think is going to come out on top here?
As much as I want to go with the obvious choice in Simpleton, I have to go with my boy Bagel.
John, yeah. I want to agree as well. But this time I think I'm going to go with Simple. Just because he's... I've gotten to know him a little bit more, and he's on my team for PWS, so I've got to represent.
All right. I think I'm going to go Simpleton as well. I think John is perfectly capable of pulling out the victory, but I think Simpleton's team gives him just the slightest of edge. And in these matches, the slightest of edge can mean the entire difference.
Mm-hmm. I think you're absolutely right, and both coaches are really, really strong. So it could come down to very close. I'm not expecting it to be a very long match. I mean, it could be. You never know, but it's definitely going to be a good one. All right, so next match, we're looking at Ryan versus Ghost, and two coaches that I believe have played during the season, and I think Ryan came out on top on that one. I can't exactly remember the match too well.
Give me a sec to check. I'm working on it.
Week 7.
Week 7. Yes, they did, and Ghost came out on top.
Ghost won that one. Okay, never mind. All right, so Ghost ended up winning that one this time. So it should be interesting then, because Ryan has been proving himself very sufficiently throughout the last couple weeks of the season. He only dropped 3 games throughout the entire season, but he went at one point he went like a 5-win streak, and he was just putting on a magnificent show. And I'm actually really proud of how well he's been doing this season. Him sitting in Guardians for most of SBT, and then finally dropping into Challengers. He really was able to shine in Challengers, and I think that's amazing. It kind of boosts his morale, and going into playoffs, I hope he doesn't lose any kind of momentum. But then again, we look at Ghosts, and he also has the same kind of momentum. He's been winning. It kind of looks like he's been winning a couple games and then loses one, and then wins a couple more and then loses more. But I'm not sure if that's anything to do with his skill level or just hacks in general. Looking at the teams, though, it's not like they were both in a decent draft position or anything. In fact, Ryan was wheel, so he was able to get a couple of good mons through that. But his team is pretty self-explanatory. He has a lot of pivots and a lot of heavy hitters, and then a setup sweeper here or there. But I think Ryan's teams are always very fast and very strong, and he just likes to get the edge going that way. Keep the pressure up early match and make sure that your opponent doesn't set up on you. On Ghost's end, he has very nice cores. He has Garchomp, Mega Gardevoir, Victini. He has a couple of strong pivots, and then some bulky mons. But both teams, I can look at them and say, like, they have potential to maybe clutch out the wins. But what do you guys think about these two here?
I think coach-wise, as we kind of talked about, both of them are more than capable of pulling out the match. As I look at the teams, it does seem like Ryan's team is able to cover a little bit more ground than Ghost's team can in a little bit kind of less legwork. Mm-hmm. But I think Ghost's team is one of those teams where if you let him get a little bit of step advantage, a little bit of step momentum, that can go a very long way in terms of how much it can decimate a team. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting matchup-wise. I'm not going to dig into it too much because I don't feel like doing that. Mm-hmm. But I think this is one where one or two mons are going to have pretty substantive or pretty clear matchups, and they'll be able to kind of take that leg room that they're given from the other team, and really whichever coach is able to make the most of those matchup advantages, they'll be able to win the match.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to determine whoever gets. I think whoever gets the offensive ground early match might maintain momentum throughout most of it, but it's going to be interesting for sure. And I hope these two have a good show. Let's talk about who we think will come out on top here. I think yourself, Peter, and myself, I think we were both leaning towards Ryan here. But if you want to say who you think, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say Ghost, but as I look at Ryan's team, it is hard for me to not pick that. So I'm going to go ahead and take Ryan to win this one.
What about you, Tyler? What do you think?
I'm going to have, as much as the matchup seems in Ryan's favor, I'm going to have to go Ghost for the repeat.
Yeah, the repeat win. Okay. It makes sense. I feel like rematches are always hit or miss because you always kind of expect maybe the winner to get the rematch again. But then I have a feeling like the loser of that match kind of analyzes the match more and then finds out, how can I counter this strategy, etc., etc. Let's jump into Electric versus Ollie. Two coaches again. Well, one coach I think we can say isn't new. Electric actually came into the tail end of last season, so he's not a new coach, but he's more new than some of our others. And Ollie joining in, replacing Hunter mid-season. Also doing amazingly well. I think he only dropped one match when he joined in, but great coach, very nice presence in the community, and I think both of these two have a really good, and I think they have a really good chance of coming out on top. I'm gonna be honest. I think looking at the teams, I really liked Ollie's team. It's a change up of what Hunter's team was, and it has a lot of good cores with it. I think I love a lot of the cores that you can create just coming out of this team, and it's very bulky. So when you have that backbone to your team, and then you have some offensive presence with Urshifu, it just creates a strong, balanced team, and it's kind of hard to break, especially when you need to, you need to make sure that you can have defensive backbone to take on like Urshifu and Alakazam and Magmortar,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think Electric's team is kind of a little bit of a different approach to it in that it's a team that is more kind of based off the individual prowess of each mon, and it's kind of seen by this sort of kill communism that's got going on here with everyone having at least one kill. But that's also something that can work to your advantage because you have at least one mon with a good matchup any given matchup.
Yeah.
More than likely.
I think
so.
Electric
that will work to his advantage, particularly in the playoff situation where coaches are going to be building very acutely. Having at least one mon that can take advantage of a matchup at any given moment would be hugely helpful.
That's kind of Electric's bread and butter, if I had to guess, because I recognized throughout most of this season, how he was using his team, and it kind of felt like he had just that one mon that would come in at some point and start wreaking havoc, and he centralized his entire team around that one mon doing well. For example, I think he brought like Specs Florges or something. And he brought a lot of really nice tech on certain mons, and I think his last match he brought like Toxic, Shell Smash, Barbarical, which I'm sure did some work. Either way, it's a team that I think it needs a bit of structure to it. It needs some kind of support to get it going. But it's also a team that has some backbone with Vaporeon and Florges, so I don't think this will be a straightforward match. I think it might last a couple of turns, especially with the bulk on both the ends. So it's going to be a tough matchup for sure, but I'm looking forward to it. And I think they said that they might play sometime early this week, so hopefully we'll look forward to that. We can talk about who we think we're going to see come out on top on this one, though. What do you think, Peter?
This is actually a tough one for me because I think I see the way both teams win this match, but I'm going to trust the top end of Ollie's team a little bit more than I trust the top end of Electric's, which is counterintuitive to how I usually look at matches.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go ahead and pick Ollie on this one.
Yeah. I want to agree with you. I think Ollie has a fair chance, especially with his performance throughout the season. He's only played 4 matches, but they've all been really close, and I think he went 3-1. I think I'm gonna go with Electric though. I think even though Ollie has a really strong top end to his team, I think Electric actually has he has the tech in his back pocket, and I don't think he's busted it out yet throughout the season. I think he's getting ready for playoffs where he can really show off his prowess. So I'm gonna go with Electric. What do you think, Tyler?
I'm gonna have to go with Electric as well. I thought he was going to do very well last season, but he was in a pretty bad spot. He just didn't win the games he needed to win to get playoffs, and he's had a great season this far. And I think he could take this one and possibly go even further.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, on his behalf, he joined late season last season, and he had to pick up a team that he didn't draft, and it was kind of like an awkward scenario where he ends up relegating because of the team and the score that he had. But either way, what's interesting is that I think he took a bit of time getting used to his team, but when he finally did, it was like he knew how to use it. It was like the back of his hand. He knew how to bring each one on. I think it's going to be a close match, though. I think no disrespect to Ollie. I think Ollie's a really good coach as well, but it's probably going to be close.
Definitely.
All right, so with that, I think we can talk about how Challengers Bracket's actually going to work, and promotion, and how the promotion works. Actually, Peter, do you want to describe this one?
So, viewers, you're probably looking at it right now, but the way promotion is going to work for Challengers and Guardians is going to be a little bit different than it will for Victors and Rivals. Unlike Victors and Rivals, which will both have 4 coaches promote, Guardians and Challengers will only have 3. You'll see on here, in Challengers, the division we're looking at now, they'll have 2 coaches that promote to Guardians, and 1 coach, the eventual division winner, will double promote to Victors. The way this will work is, right now, we're going to have the first round of playoffs. The winners will all go to the second round. After the second round / semifinal matches, the 2 winners of those semifinal matches will battle for the championship. The champion will double promote, and the loser will promote to Guardians. The loser of those semifinal matches will also battle, with the winner promoted to Guardians as well, and the loser remaining in Challengers or Guardians respectively. Now in Guardians, as you'll see, there is only a single promote option. There will be no double promote from Guardians, but the same will apply with the losers of semifinal matches playing each other, the winner staying in Guardians, loser staying in Guardians, winner promoting to Victors respectively. So if my explanation was bad, you'll see on screen right now and it'll make a lot more sense. But with that, let's go on ahead and move on to Guardians.
Okay, nicely said. Let's move up to Guardians though, since we're almost halfway through. Guardians bracket. A lot of good coaches this season, and it actually came down really close at the end for who was going to make it into playoffs. I remember everyone
I think we had our own strength of schedule tie in Guardians.
We had so many. We had to measure out head to head and strength of schedules, and a couple coaches not it came really, really close. I think it came down to some differential as well at the end. Like Shrek and Yeezy almost made it in. I think if X Gamer had won his match and didn't get flinched out, he would have made it in as well. But the end result, a lot of good coaches still made it into Guardians. It's going to be a really good showing for all these coaches. Now Leonard ends up with the default first seed placement. So congratulations to Leonard. He gets to take a week off. No promotion just yet, just like we described it and Peter said. That promotion is only for after semifinals, where they move on to finals, and they have to face off for whoever gets the promotion there. Leonard did really, really well throughout the season. I'm very, very impressed for his season. I wasn't expecting anything less. He was in Victor's last season, as well as some of these other playoff coaches. We have Rummy, Witchard, Photon, Juke. The only two coaches that weren't in Victor's last season was Tyler B, who was in Challengers, and Piranha Plant, who was in Conquerors last season. But we can look at the three matchups we have here for round one of Guardians. We can look at the Piranha Plant versus Rummy match. And again, Piranha, I think he was competing very heavily to becoming the first seed in the division throughout most of the season. I think at some points he was the first seed, and he traded places a couple times with Leonard. They ended up tying, which is crazy.
Him and Nard were pretty much going back and forth the entire season with that first seed. At a point, Shrek actually popped in late season and almost snatched it from both of them. But as you see, things were so crazy that Shrek went from that to not even making playoffs. So that's how wild things got over here.
It really did. I think Guardians. At one point, Rummy was also like sneaking in there. I think by the end of like week 1 or 2, he was at the top. But it was pretty tough. But
as we look at these teams, it's kind of interesting to see just again different philosophies in terms of how these teams really work. Piranha Plant is very clear what the game plan is. He's got mons that total a lot of kills, and it's very clear that those are the mons he wants to get into to end games. Versus Rummy, it's very clear that he kind of adapts to the match as needed. You see a lot of mons with a lot of kills, like I mentioned, that sort of kill communism, except for Golvantula and Turtonator. But that shows he also got a lot of different ways in which he can formulate teams to win matches. So it'll be interesting to see which approach kind of comes out on top, as playoffs kind of requires that extra level of adaptability when it comes to building.
I think I agree. Like you said, Piranha Plant has a clear win con, and he builds around that, which a very smart strategy, of course. It could be a little bit over, predictable for some coaches to see. Like once you see that your opponent's end game is a certain mon or a certain strategy, you can kind of counter that strategy. But that is obviously during the prep phase, and during battle it's a little bit different, and you're trying to counter during that. But have these two fought in the regular season? Plant versus Rummy?
Let me check. I want to say yes, but I can't.
Pretty sure they did
that.
They played week 6.
Week 6, Piranha Plant won 3-0.
3-0. So it's going to be a rematch, and Rummy, of course, is the underdog here. So it's definitely going to be a scrap, and these two are only like one win away, one loss apart. So it could go either way. But in terms of who we think, what do you guys think, Tyler? Rummy or Piranha?
I'm gonna have to stick with Piranha on this one. He's been on a tear this season, and I don't see him being stopped.
Peter?
I'm gonna go with Piranha as well. I think his team just has that extra edge in terms of the ways it can beat you. I know he's only used really Tarak and Riloom so far, but I think you're gonna see some of these other mons pick up kills in the match.
So I am gonna have to agree with both of you. I do think that Piranha's team it's more balanced in what it can do, and it has a lot of different options it can go. Obviously, I'm looking at that Maya Houndoom and Torkoal, and then he has other end games that really help him to kind of just break down his opponent. But not to say that Rummy isn't a good coach. Of course, he's been in victors for the longest time, but I can't see Piranha losing this one here. All right, let's move on now to Witcher versus Photon, and of course these two have already played. They actually played in their final week of the regular season. Can't really talk too much about that match. That one was kind of just either throwing a meme in here or there, and I'm not sure if they were actually trying or not.
I don't think either coach had anything to play for. I'm pretty sure they're at that point when they played, their spots were basically solidified as long as like a certain result didn't happen. And once that result no longer happens, they just kind of checked out.
Yeah, they were just, there was no point in prolonging, but it was actually a fun match. If you guys want to look back at it, I don't know if I should link it here or just check the Discord server, but hopefully these two will play up again. I know Photon had some comments at the end of that match, but if they do end up playing, it might be a really interesting match. I know that both teams have some really strong components. More so, I think Photon does, because I always appreciated the composition of Photon's team. Very fast and offensive, and has some defensive options as well, including some sand options. So I really enjoyed looking at his team throughout the season, and it performed decently well. It went 6-4, nothing too crazy, but enough to just get him into playoffs. And then yeah, you look at Witcher's team, and he has a lot of standalone strong mons that can come in maybe late game and kind of do some work, like Weavile, Volcarona, Regieleki. And then at the same time, he had some backbone to it with Finny, Celesteela, Altaria, and Muzdale. So it's definitely interesting to see the play styles that Witcher wants to go with, and we've seen him over the past couple seasons and what he can do with certain teams. So yeah, what do you think, Peter? What do you think on these two teams here?
So I would want to agree. Like, I think I like Photon's teams more. I do agree there, but I'm actually gonna lean Witcher on this one.
Yeah.
I think the tools that his team has are just gonna give him the edge in this playoff matchup. Particularly, I think mons like Celesteela, Tapu Fini, Celebi, things that you can play a number of different ways. That versatility is gonna show up perfectly in this match.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think counter building for Photon's team is a little bit easier when you have components like what Witcher has. At the same time, and I know how much it hurts when your walls get broken down too fast. You start to struggle to try to take on offensive pressure, and that's exactly what Photon's team is. If even one of your walls drop, Photon's team kind of just takes advantage, especially that Spectre, just waiting to come in and start getting some special attack boosts. But I think I might have to go with Photon. Not that I want to, diss my boy Witcher, but I'm gonna go with Photon on this one here.
I'm also gonna have to go Photon. The matchup was just too good, and if Photon actually tries and gives it his all of this match, I don't see a way Witcher can come with the win.
It's definitely
no, you guys.
I think it's a clear.
The fact that I taught Witcher everything he knows.
Oh, you're right. You two are the off-season champions right there.
And where are you in the Conquerors standings?
Uh-oh.
I taught him everything I know, and by taught him, I mean gave it to him, and now I have nothing left.
Oh yeah, he took all of his strats. That's it.
I taught myself how to absolutely sabotage a Mew and an Excadrill, so you learn something new every season.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a clear end game for Photon, but I do like both teams. I think it's going to be a good match. With that, we got one more talk about Guardians, and let's look at it. We got Juke Loans versus Tyler B. Two two coaches in the SBT that are OGs. I think we've known Juke and Tyler B for, I want to say, 2.5 years, and both coaches have gotten substantially better throughout each season. I think Juke has been gotten unfortunately unlucky a couple times in each season of SBT, but he's starting to look really, really strong now. You know, he's made playoffs. He's gotten a couple 6-0s this season, which I'm impressed about. I don't know if these two actually fought throughout the season, though. I don't believe so. Because that would have been a match I would have been interested in seeing. Although they did fight. They fought week 6, where Juke took the 1-0 there. So I'm curious how it's going to end up this time. If it came that close, we could see another close match again. But yeah, both of them have really interesting, strategies going into the match, and their play styles are definitely interesting. Peter, what do you think about these two? They were both in our first leagues together.
Yep. I've played against Drew before. I actually haven't gotten the chance to play against Tyler B yet. I am thoroughly amazed, and I have to give Drew credit that he made playoffs with this team.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't know how Skarmory is his second kill leader, but
that's funny. Yeah.
I need to go run through the tape and figure out how that one happened.
A lot of Iron Defense body press sets.
I think he brought SD. He might have brought SD at one point. I'm not sure.
The madman. I respect it. But I think this will be kind of an interesting matchup just based on both coaches have what would seem to be a very clear philosophy on how they would win matches. But if you look at their performances over the actual season, that's not how they tend to rack up a lot of their kills and win a lot of matches. You would think that for Tyler B, most things would run through Arrow and Necrozma. And it seems like more things are running through Heatran and Raikou. For Juke, you would think most things are running through Coco and some combo of Cinderace, Swampert, or Mega Heracross. Really, it seems to be kind of letting Skarmory get into situations where he can slow chip you down for a Heracross or something to kind of finish up. But it'll be quite interesting to see how these two teams go about it, whether they're stick to kind of those off-kilter strategies that got them success in the season, or if they're going to play more to kind of the on-paper strengths of the team.
I think I agree. I think going into playoffs, they can use their strategies that they've been using to win throughout the season. That might be more reliable to them, but that also could be very predictable to each coach, especially since they've played each other before. I'm also very surprised that Juke's Arctozolt Vanillix combo hasn't really been popping off, and it is a really strong combo when you get it into the right position, especially endgame. But that could be something to definitely look into if he wants to go that route. But again, Tyler B might Tyler B has really gotten good at making sure he covers all his bases and making sure nothing can actually just sweep him right off the bat. So he looks at his opponent's team, he assesses the threats, and he has the correct responses to them. And I think he's definitely done well and he's gotten better at this. Last season in Challengers, he went all the way to the top, and he didn't really want to stop. So let's see if he makes it through. But you guys want to try to make a prediction on who's going to take this one?
Sure. I know I've definitely said, it's Juke's team, it seems like he has a pretty good grasp of it in a number of ways to win this match. But I did say that I have not faced Tyler B yet. And Tyler B, now's your chance. Join me in Victor's next season, even though I don't want to talk about it because this season was a disaster. Join me in Victor's next season, and I think now is the time we'll actually get to play each other. So I'm going to take Tyler B to win this match.
In before you guys don't get matched up together.
Would be sad.
Okay, so Tyler B. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to go with Juke on this one. As much as I like both of these coaches, I could argue that both of them should probably win out. But I'm going to go with Juke just because I've seen how well he does. In some cases, he just goes all the way in. He gets like a 6-0 or a 5-0 out of nowhere. Some other cases, he kind of fumbles the ball and he kind of just drops it. But Tyler B might be able to pick up on that. But I'm still gonna go with Juke on this one.
Makes sense.
I am also gonna have to go with Juke on this one.
Yeah,
Juke has been consistently putting results over the past few seasons. He's always had near 500 records, and especially in Guardians this season, he's been piping up and he's been doing well. 6-4 record with plus 12 differential is pretty big, and he's been playing really well. Although Tyler's been playing really well too. But I'm still gonna have to give the edge to Juke here.
His past performance, Tyler B. Looking at that match versus Keith in his last week, he really wanted to make this playoff run, and he did everything that he needed to. Sorry about that, guys. He needed to get this win to make playoffs, and he went out. He prepped his ass off. I think he asked for some mocks, and he got the win. So it just goes to show like the amount of dedication Tyler B's been putting into this season. Alright, so that's the end of the first round, and of course, Guardians Bracket, it's going to be similar to how we spoke on Challengers. It's going to be the same thing. Semi-finalists, they move once they move on to the finals. Our finals coaches are going to play. Well, I think actually semi-finals are going to be a little different for Guardians, correct? Because there's no double promotion in Guardians, so
well, it'll be the same setup. It's just that the winner of finals won't double promote like Challengers. Both the winner, the loser of finals, and the winner of that
you're right.
place match will all go to victors.
So you're right. So whoever makes finals, both of those two, they promote no matter what. And whoever loses in semifinals, they do have to do a promotional match in order to promote into victors next season.
Yep.
Alright, so we got 2 more divisions coming up, guys, and I know we're coming up on about an hour. It's 54 minutes, but we're almost done here. So
I expected it.
Let's move up to our second division in Victor's bracket. Victor's in itself was a very interesting season for Season 7 SBT. Had a lot of new strong coaches, a couple of drops, a couple of new coaches added. We had a lot of shifts here and there, some upsets, but the one thing that I think stuck throughout the entire season was that Lux was a beast throughout the entire season. He went 9-1. He didn't stop, and I think he definitely deserves his promotion to Conquerors. And making semifinalists just gets you that auto promote. So congratulations to Lux for making it into Conq next season. We're looking forward to seeing him in there. When it comes to the other coaches in quarterfinals, we had to obviously omit one coach who entered in late throughout the season, just due to a circumstance that involved another coach that couldn't continue the season. And like I said, we had to omit him from playoffs this season. So 8th seed in Victor's division actually makes it into the playoff bracket. So we'll talk about that. But let's look at it now. We have our first match is GCS versus KHD in 2nd and 7th seed, and then Zombie versus Slick, and then Techno versus Hydra. All coaches who I believe should be allowed into Conquerors. They're all very, very good coaches and deserve their spots in there. But of course, only 4 can make it in. Whoever these 4 coaches are that make it into semifinals. But GCS versus KHD. Now GCS is another coach who has been rampaging through victors throughout the entire season, and I was actually very hopeful that he would make first seed because he was looking super strong. Of course, Lux and GCS I think had a nice rivalry throughout the entire season. But looking at the matchup, GCS has a really nice core And throughout the entire season, he's made use of every single one of his mons. Perhaps not really Urshifu, the Rapid. I believe Urshifu Rapid, as good as it can be, it never really ends up performing that well.
It's slightly limited, so
yeah,
it makes sense that it's not really the focal point of the team.
And you know, he also does have another water type, and he has another fighting type, so it's kind of just there, you know, at his leisure. And then you look at KHD's team, who has also performed really well. I want to point out he actually joined, I think week 4 or week 3 of the season, and he went 5-2, which really helped him out in making playoffs, and he ended up grabbing that final seed, just sneaking into playoffs, which is really nice. But his team, of course, was inherited to him, not from his choosing, but he did change it up a little bit. And it's really, really cool to see that a Raichu is his kill leader. And I saw some really interesting Raichu sets from him. But yeah, the rest of his team, of course, is just very balanced, and I think he just has what he needs. But what do you think, Peter? What do you think on these two and their matchup?
Definitely, I think KHD is kind of an interesting one to assess because he did just come in, taking over a team. So it makes sense that Raichu might be the kill leader, just because not all the mods have gotten a whole ton of reps under him. But hard not to look at GCS's performance and be impressed. In a packed Victor's division, being able to go 7-3 plus 23 is definitely no small accomplishment. So it's definitely a well-earned 2 seed by GCS, and I would be surprised to not see him make some noise in this championship race.
Yeah, as good as both coaches are, and of course I would love to have KHD promote, I really think GCS earned that playoff spot. Okay, what do you guys think, though? Tyler, what are your thoughts, GCS versus KHD?
KHD is an absolute ape and a monkey, so I'm gonna have to go for GCS.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
All right, so with that, let's move on to Zombie versus Slick. 2 coaches who, of course, were in Conquerors last season, so we already know how good they are. And Slick demoted not by his own accord. We kind of had to manually do that, but 2 coaches that obviously are in the same ranks as Conquerors, and I think both of them deserve to promote, but only one can. We've known Zombie since Season 3 SBT. You know, we've seen him in playoffs many times before. I think he's made playoffs, I don't know, almost every single season he's been in SBT. Slick is a bit newer, but we know how good he is, and he's recently joined the mod team, so he's one of our boys. What do you think, though? These two and their teams, Zombie has a really scary team. Slick just knows how to use his team to its full effect. It might come down close. I don't know if they ended up facing during the regular season. That might dictate how they perform this season or in this matchup.
First of all, I'm offended that I see this 0-0 next to Snom, and we know how much the Zombie loves Snom, so I'm sensing fraudulence over here from
I'm really curious why that Snom is sitting at 0-0, yeah.
We have fraud in our hands. But anyways, to actual matchup analysis, even though Snom breakdown is really why you're here. I think it'll be interesting to see how the 2 coaches approach this fight. It's clear that Slick has funneled most of his offensive output into that Terrakion, into that Mega Chomp. But it's not as if he doesn't have a Clefable or a Zapdos, or even as we saw Skarmory and Zarude, even Salazzle, and really his whole team can offer some sort of offensive capabilities. So even as much as Zombie can kind of cover a lot of different things with his Landorus, Megamedi, Dracovish, each 3 kind of being an unstoppable force.
Yep.
he does have to really stretch the bandwidth of that Mandibuzz and that Ferrothorn defensively, as well as the Mudsdale, just because he's not really able to predict just how Slick's going to try and funnel him. So it's possible that he's going to kind of use the Terrakion to break things enough to where Clefable is able to get into an optimal setup position and then start doing Clefable things, or he can really switch on its head, let Zapdos be the pivot into likes of Terrakion, Megachomp, and Zarude, and do a lot of kind of that fast chipping. But Zombie, as I mentioned, does have a Landorus Eye, a Mega Metagem, and a Dracovish. Have fun trying to switch into those.
Those are monstrous wall breakers that feel very overpowering, even during prep. I think prep is the hardest part of this matchup, for Slick at least. But I know that Zombie is the type to scout a lot, and he knows that pivoting and hazards are a lot of the ways to go. And I mean, hazards are just broken in general, but maybe not this gen. And he loves using Ferrothorn. I believe he's drafted Ferrothorn maybe 2 or 3 times in SBT already, and he knows how to use that thing. Using his famous Mega Psychics to break down his opponent, and then kind of just clean up with his other wall breakers is, Zombie's bread and butter. But Slick is no pushover at all. I believe he got a couple wins in Conquerors last season and only demoted by the skin of his teeth. But his team is a lot more defensive, and I think that might just be what he needs. I don't know if he can actually wall the core that Zombie has, but it's going to be a close match in my opinion. I think both of these two, even though Zombie has more offensive pressure, I think Slick has something saved up for him. I think they've actually played in their final week, so
they literally just played today.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know the result. I think Zombie
went 2-0, I think.
Okay.
Or you know.
But yeah, who do you guys think is going to come out on top here? I'm going to go with Zombie. I predicted in the beginning of the season that Zombie was gonna go all the way, so I'm gonna stick with Zombie.
As much as I want to say that Zombie's gonna miss 2 high jump kicks and just kills Megacham off for no reason, I'm going to pick Zombie in this match just because, mostly because Lando Eye and Dragovich can't miss, but also I think scouting is going to become incredibly valuable for him in this match, and he'll be able to pull it off with no flaws.
Yeah, I think I agree with that logic. Tyler, what do you think?
I'm gonna have to go for the upset with my Irish friend here.
Slick. Yeah, I mean, again, Slick is a very good coach as well. I think he's been popping off in some tours lately as well, and just seeing how much he's been doing well there. But I don't know. It's a tough call for both of them. They're definitely 2 coaches that I think deserve to be in Conquerors, and only one of them can. So it's just see what ends up happening here. But we can move down to the next match. It's going to be Techno versus Hydra. Hydra's differential, it was super interesting throughout the entire season. I believe he kept getting like 1-0s or 2-0s, and he kept losing a couple of differentials with some other matches. So it came down really close if he was actually going to make playoffs or not, even though...
Shout out to Hydra for going to the Beatergate school of qualifying for playoffs with a horrible differential.
Mm-hmm. You know, he started off the season really strong too.
The 6 seed specialist, baby. But I think he started off actually a good differential, and then it became weird, like a bunch of 1-0 wins with like 4-0 or 5-0 losses.
Yeah.
But his team is certainly no slouch.
I think the nature of his team kind of just allowed for that, because it was almost as if he couldn't get a win without having to sacrifice a couple of mons, which makes sense, you know. Looking at his team, it's very offensive, and you got things like Vaporeon and Weezing in the back, and then there's definitely coverage that kind of takes on most of Hydra's team if he allows his opponent, like definitely some bulky offense. Really, like he struggles with that if he doesn't have a wall breaker, if he doesn't bring Bandit Victini a couple times, you know. And then and then you look at Techno's team, who Techno has been performing amazingly as well. Another Conquerors coaches from last season. He has his famous Mega Mawile Slowbro core, which I believe he also drafted last season, but I could be wrong. I think I've seen him have Mega Mawile and Slowbro a lot throughout most of his drafts, at least. But
I don't remember if he had Mega Mawile, but I do think he had Slowbro last season.
I think so he had Slowbro and Crook, and you know what I'm thinking of? He had Mega Mawile in Season 5, where he actually went to win that season. So we forgot to mention, Techno is our Season 5 champion. Probably will be doing well, so you gotta watch out for him. But he has an interesting team as well, and he has a lot of nice pivots to get that Mawile in. And it's only really lacking some special defense, which he covers kind of in Blissey anyways. But the two teams together, they both 6-4. Techno just has a better differential. It'll definitely be an interesting matchup. I don't know if they fought throughout the season. I keep having to go back and check.
They did not.
They didn't end up fighting.
I don't remember them fighting at least.
All right, so this is gonna be.
I remember Techno complaining about having to face a Victini earlier.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so this is gonna be a fresh match then, coming right out of into playoffs. So it's gonna be a good one. I think it's gonna be a really strong match. Both coaches, I think, really want this promotion. More so Techno, I think, but it's gonna be a good one. So
it'll definitely be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. So predictions, guys.
I'm gonna have to go Hydra on this one.
Hydra? Yeah, he is.
I'm split on this one. I think it'll come down to which coach is able to best position their Mega for success, and I'm gonna lean Techno on that.
It is really a hard match to kind of to predict, because both just without even looking at the teams, I'm kind of leaning towards Hydra, but at the same time I want to choose Techno, just because he's performed well in SBT throughout past seasons, and kind of he can do well, and he has a decent team around him. I think I am going to go with Techno, and it's not to say anything against Hydra. I do like his team, but I think Techno really wants to get back into Conquerors. I think it means more to him. All right, so that's gonna wrap up Victors, I believe. And semifinals into finals doesn't really matter. Whoever makes semis in Victors brackets automatically promotes into Conquerors next season. All right. So with that,
Conquerors next season could not be me.
Pain.
Tank for draft picks over here at Club Beater Game.
We got Pain. So we're looking at Conquerors now, our top division. The most insane season I think Conquerors ever had. I might actually just throw up the standings for you guys just to check it out if you haven't already looked at it. But came down super close between most of the coaches, from 5th seed all the way down to the 15th seed. It was a toss-up from who would lose the differential, who would get an extra win, and if you even lost 2 more differential, you would get relegated. My match was just really scary, because had I lost even more differential, I probably would have ended up relegating. Well, maybe not, just judging on how the rest of the matches went.
It ended up breaking out, so you would have probably been safe. But
yeah.
It came down to literally the last minute.
Yeah, everyone played their match right at the end of the week, and we got everyone all racked up. But we can check out how the playoff bracket looks now. No surprise that Toxic ended up getting number 1. He was number 1 throughout most of the season. I believe maybe even 9 out of 10 of the weeks he was number one. Maybe Sky slipped in there and
Him and Sky
grabbed
were
number one.
trading pretty much the entire time, and as you see, they never played each other, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
or they might have and just took a double forfeit.
They ended up taking a double forfeit because I don't know. They thought maybe they're gonna end up playing anyways in playoffs, so they figured, hey, let's just take a forfeit win so we don't have to reveal each other's sets, which is fine.
Toxic just got scared. Toxic got scared to lose his first seed and offered a double forfeit.
That could have been the case too, because as you can see, Toxic's differential is just a lot better. Sky didn't matter. I don't think Sky really cared if he got first seed or not. You know, he just wanted to go through the playoffs and probably earn that. Toxic gets a week off. He only dropped like 2 matches throughout the season, of course, and well, luckily I ended up beating him at least, so I can say I beat the first seed. But otherwise, you know, we have 6 other coaches that made playoffs. Let's list them. Actually, I'll let Tyler, do you want to run through these coaches? You know, you made playoffs in Conquerors, which congrats to you. It's going to be a rough ride, it looks like.
It definitely is.
It'll be an interesting one for sure.
So first match.
Well, the first match is going to be Sky versus Zane. There's going to be Ishan versus some shitter, and there's going to be PZZ versus Beardy.
First of all, there's only going to be 2 matches in Conquerors because Ishan versus Tyler is not getting played till 2022.
Yeah, that might end up getting John. Who knows? But I think, Tyler, you said you only have like the 1 match this week, so who knows?
Nothing but time.
You might actually have some time. Who knows?
I still have IRL stuff I'm going to John.
Okay. And then we already know Ishan has to John a little bit too, so
I need to get on your Johnning levels if I want to keep up.
My Johnning levels were so good, I almost made into playoffs.
SBT leadership, everyone. SBT leadership.
So let's look at Sky versus Zane. Zane barely managing to make playoffs.
You're welcome, Zane.
I know Zane. If I ended up winning, I think he would have dropped into. He would have been in the safe zone, but I don't think he would have made it. But Zane versus Sky, have those two fought throughout the season? I don't believe they did, actually.
Maybe? I don't remember it, at least.
No, it doesn't look like they fought. They didn't. So that's going to be a fresh match. And I think that's going to be interesting because I remember prepping for Zane's team. I'm not going to reveal anything, but I remember prepping for both of these two coaches, actually. Both of them substantially hard to prep for just because of the amount of offense they both possessed, especially on Sky's end. Like, Sky's team was ridiculously offensive to the point where it was just hard to bring your own offense. You know, you kind of were just locked into bringing just defensive counters for him. And then Zane, very, very straightforward when he plays. I think Zane, he kind of just gets you into a cycle of trying to, bait out your defensive position mons. And that's when he starts to bring in like his setup or his offensive breakers, and you're stuck either sacking something off or you kind of have to just set up yourself because otherwise he's going to take the win. So what do you guys think? Did you guys play Zane and Sky throughout the season?
I didn't play Sky, but I played Zane week 10 after I had already guaranteed demoted, so I brought a Zapken and Umbreon. So that's that's what you're working with over here. But I think Zane's an interesting, particularly the way he constructed his team, is an interesting case because he's very much in the boat of he'll just beat you with whatever he's got to. If you see, he's got pretty much the same kill communism thing we were talking about earlier. Everything's got at least 1 kill. So however he needs to beat you, he will try to beat you that way, which has its drawbacks, but it does work quite well, particularly in playoffs, because when you got to get the win, Doesn't matter how you do it, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sky, on the other hand, I think is a little bit more. I can find his team that I just scrolled past. Don't mind me. There he is. Sky's a little bit more kind of controlled in how he plays, and what I mean by that is it's very clear how his play style works. He likes to be someone who can sit on the back foot, doesn't mind taking extra hits, and then when he sees the opportunity, can pounce immediately and just all of a sudden, oh, cool, I'm down to 2 mons, he has 5 left.
Yeah.
But
I will agree.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works and how Zane's able to kind of stave off Sky from being able to pounce and strike quickly.
Just piggybacking off what you said on Sky's team there, Beater. I just remember playing Sky, and it was back and forth until Sky started realizing my play strategy. And in that case, he finally set in, like, he was like, okay, now it's time to send in my Shell Smash Blastoise. And he really started messing up my team with that thing. And at that point, I just didn't have any more defensive responses to things like the Terrakion, the things like the Spectre, and he can even bring like Thundurus if he wants to. I don't think he's really done well with it, but it's still a really strong force. Whereas Zane has like the 2 strongest mons, and well, I can't say the strongest mons, but they're really strong when it comes to pivoting in Gen 8, Galar Zap and Galar Darm. Both of them you kind of have to prep for, because if Galar Zap is banded or Galar Darm is Scarf, it really just exerts a lot of pressure on your team,
Definitely.
So when it comes down to who's going to win this match, what do you guys think?
I'm gonna have to stick with Skyquake here.
Yep. As much as I want to see Zane make a playoff run, I think Sky's got this.
I think Sky, I'm going to agree with you guys. I'm going to go with Sky as well, but it's only because Sky's team, I feel, is more balanced. It has that...
I just have to go for Sky because he always pipes up in playoffs.
And he's been in playoffs every single season he's been in SBT.
Yeah, but to be fair, Sky usually does like pretty average during the season, and he literally just creeps up to the last spots to get in playoffs usually. But now that he's in the top, something might be reversed. I don't know.
Oh, you never know.
Or he'll kick it up another gear, and next thing you know, he's 6-0ing everyone.
Because doing his making number 2 already in Conquerors, like he's already done his justice. I don't know if he can continue on, but like maybe getting that first seed would have been nice for Sky. He could have got a break at least. I feel like he might have needed it, but he's on a roll, so it's probably better to stick with the momentum he has. We can move on to the next match. We got Ishan versus this Johnner that we got in the call with us. Technically, they're both Johners, so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Beater, there's me, and then there's the Johnner we're talking about.
I was gonna say there's really two Johners in this call. To be honest.
And we got the ultimate Johnner, and we got the medium Johnner, and then we got Beater.
And then you have the tank specialist.
So, Ishan did a pretty good job in this season of Conquerors. It was his first season, and he ended up 7-3. I think he got a forfeit win at one point. I'm not sure. Was it against Cheese or? Yeah, it was. We were just talking about it. It was against Cheese Furs last week. But even still, like he did really well throughout his first season, so that's very impressive. I know that he comes from like other top leagues, and he does well there. But we're glad that he was able to join us for this season. When it comes to the matchup, and I guess Tyler, you kind of have to opt out of talking for this one because you don't want to spoil any kind of prep that you have going into this. Peter, do you want to talk about what the matchup looks like here?
Sure, let me quickly scroll to these teams. Okay, so I see Tyler's kind of got an interesting kill distribution just on his teams. I'm looking at it. His Mega Medicham is his kill leader, which is to be expected, but across the board, he's pretty good at adapting what his secondary option is as the battle is needed. So I think that'll definitely be something that poses as a positive for him come playoffs. Ishan, and I didn't fight Tyler, but I did fight Ishan. Mm-hmm. Ishan's game plan can be somewhat flexible, but he does like to kind of funnel things into a couple of different mons. Now, Suicune has 8 kills. I'm going to admit, 6 of those came from me. I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, no.
But it was not a 6. So, hold that. But it's definitely like his flexibility is a little bit less prevalent than Tyler's, but he has an Urshifu single and a Latios, which if those are going to be your offensive options, you're not in a bad spot.
Yeah. Not only that, I remember actually speaking with Ishan at the beginning of the draft, and he was looking at grabbing Suicune and Licky Licky together, because those two together are just really, really hard to break. And not that you can't break them.
You have a weakness policy on your Tyranitar.
Oh, that's such a rip.
I'm so angry about that.
Mm-hmm. Again, I didn't get to face Ishan this season, which I'm pretty upset about, but that would have been the Johnning game of the season, I think. Anyways.
That game wouldn't have been played.
It honestly wouldn't have been played until next season, or maybe not even. So, yeah, I was really looking forward to fighting him. His team, very offensive, very OU team, if I had to look at it. And it's something that is definitely hard to break at first glance, because he has like some prevalent responses to a lot of different coverage that your opponent can bring. Blanket checks in Licky Licky and Suicune together are very, very annoying to break. And then obviously Tyler's team, we know Tyler. If you don't know Tyler, by the way, he's here with us. He's our season 2 champion, and I believe you've made playoffs most of SBT, if I'm correct there, Tyler. I think you only missed playoffs like a couple times. But his team this season was really, really powerful. I remember playing you just in the first week, and I had a lot of problems with that Mega Medicham. Granted, my team was very weak to it, but I think you built your team in a way that was able to allow it to function as just not only as a wall breaker, but as a cleaner as well. And that's very impressive, especially when you have a lot of blanket checks in Blissey and Spirit Tune to kind of help you defend against some threats that take on Medicham. I don't think you brought Blissey too much. I don't know if that 1-on-1 is exactly how it looks, or you brought it some more times, but I think you actually picked up a couple mons at the end of the season. So in any case, I think it's going to be a really close match. Again, they did fight in the regular season. Ishan, I believe, won. I think it came close.
Was it the week 1 battle, wasn't it?
No, I played was week 1.
It was week 2. Yeah. Ishan took the 3-0, so it'll be interesting for sure, because I believe from then Tyler's team has changed up. I think Ishan's team stayed the same. Like, I don't think Ishan used any of his FAs, so
unfortunately, if anything, my team got weaker to him, so that'll be interesting.
Well, yeah, just don't miss your
I got rid of Big Tang, which was a perfect check to your Shifu.
I picked up Tang when you dropped it. Didn't really do well with it.
And I faced Tang when you picked it up.
Yeah.
Grr.
Give it back.
I would too. I didn't really do well with it, not on this team. But yeah.
One Excadrill?
If I was in playoffs. So yeah. I think in my case, I'm probably gonna lean towards Tyler taking this one. And it's not against Ishan, or not any kind of bias, because Tyler is the league owner and he can kick me if I don't pick him. But yeah, I just think he has a nice shot this time. Peter, what do you think?
I know Tyler just complained about the matchup, which is somewhat warranted because I think Tankworth would have been a nice help as well. But I think I'm gonna just lean Tyler here because I think I see a few pathways to victory, whereas Ishan, I think he has one likely pathway, but it's gonna be kind of hard for him to react on the fly if things start breaking down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure.
And of course, Tyler is gonna pick Ishan to win.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. So, we got one more match to talk about in Conquerors, and then we can finally wrap up. I know this has already been like an hour and a half, but you know, we're just trying to make up for all the content we lost throughout the season. So,
makes sense.
Our last match is going to be PZZ versus Beardy. And both of these coaches, I think, yeah, they might just be on the same level. Like, PZZ really knows his tech when it comes to playing his team for more than like a couple of weeks, and then he starts picking up like some really interesting skill techs from each Mons and using them to his advantage. It kind of taking his opponent by by surprise, which is very nice. And then Beardy as well also has this innovation about his building, and I don't know if he builds with a couple of his friends, but it's really interesting to see some of his sets that he brings.
He always finds that one flaw that you have, and he will always use that to his advantage and then bring some jank shit around it, so you don't know how to prep for Beardy.
Yeah.
And you just gotta hope you don't get caught off guard.
Well, even in the way Beardy plays, I think one thing that I picked up on, even when I played on week 1, was just that he is unafraid to make a ballsy play when you're least expecting it.
Yeah.
Like he's very good at kind of lulling you into a flow of a match, and when you least expect it, when you're kind of half asleep, think you have things figured out, that's when he jumps. That's when he's going to try and get ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
Versus PZZ, I think, is someone who he does a lot of more of that work on the front end in the building, and that he knows, and he's very good about identifying what your team is likely going to try to do, and he's good about beating you to that spot and being able to outsmart you when he tries to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be kind of interesting two different building philosophies and how Beardy is going to try to either outsmart PZZ, or if he's going to try to let PZZ think he's got that upper hand and then jump on him, or if PZZ will be able to maintain control throughout.
Yeah, I'm noticing something about Beardy's team that maybe will struggle with PZZ's, but at the same time, Beardy has that Gothitelle, and that's already some tech in itself. And I don't know if he's brought it to a lot of matches, but it can be really annoying when it starts to do its thing. I will agree with you that
matches that it's come to, it seems that what it's very good at doing is the match that it comes to, it's able to do just enough legwork for Lopani and Gengar to really finish up the job.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that it individually has done a lot of standalone work.
Yeah.
This season.
I'm gonna agree with your point earlier where you said about PZZ. I think I recently just played him for our last week match, and I think we both. I don't know how extensively he prepped for that match, but we both played in. I know that he a lot of times he doesn't really care about what his opponent is going to try to preserve or has in the back, because he knows that his own strategy eventually will kick in, and as long as he gets chip on everything, he's good to go. Like he's good to weaken everything for, like, say his Scarf Infernape, or his Hoopa or anything like that. And I think that's just the way PZZ works around his opponent's team, because his team in general is very bulky, so he doesn't need to always consider like, oh, I'm gonna be taking a lot of chip, I might as well not make that play. He'll rather just make the ballsy play, take the chip, and then just get the momentum back. I think he's all about the momentum. Whereas Beardy, I think he also has those balls, and I remember seeing like Gengar put in so much work, so both of them just a force to be reckoned with. I think it's going to be a good match. I don't know if they played during the regular season, but if they did, I'm going to have to rewatch that because that probably was a good match.
I think so as well. I don't remember if they played in the regular season. I don't think so.
Oh, they didn't.
But they might have.
No, they didn't. So another match that that wasn't played. So it's going to be a fresh start for both of them. But let's talk about our predictions and who we think is going to come out on top. Tyler, do you want to say who you think is going to come out top here?
As much as I want to say PZZ, I'm gonna have to go with Beardy on that one.
You're gonna go with Beardy on that one, okay?
Yep.
Peter?
The other way around with that. I would like to see Beardy win this match because I think he'll do it in a very interesting way. But I've seen PZZ do it too many different ways, too many different times. So I'm gonna take PZZ. I
think depending on Beardy's prep, how long he wants to prep for this match, I think Beardy can pull out the win here. I am going to go with PZZ though, just because I think his team, it can do a lot of things, but it does have that natural bulk to it that allows it to kind of just take advantage of his opponent, and then bring in his offense and do what he needs. And PZZ is just a really strong coach in general, so yeah, PZZ has my vote here. So that's gonna be it. Yeah, we covered all the matches for each division, and we hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna put some timestamps for you guys so you don't have to listen to all our voices throughout this hour-and-a-half video. I'm not even sure when this is gonna be out. It's probably gonna be like a couple days into the week. So if some matches have already been played, then we're talking.
They'll see it when they see it.
Yeah. But that's gonna be it, guys. Thank you again for taking the time to listen to us. This is a long video, and good luck again to each coach in playoff contention. You did well to make it all the way here after 10 weeks, and that's gonna be that. We're looking forward to who's gonna make finals, who's gonna get promoted, and we hope you return for next season. Apps aren't out yet, but we're going to be getting into that sometime shortly. Hopefully.
We'll get to it.
Potentially, and yeah, just look forward to some of these matches. So that's going to be it, guys. We can sign off now and take it easy and wait for our next SBT content to drop. So,
all right. See y'all.
Peace out, guys.